Good Thursday afternoon to you. 4 o'clock time for Sports4CLE. Thanks for joining us. Hope you're having a good afternoon. Browns continue to try to find a veteran quarterback to go along with Kenny Pickett and a rookie quarterback that they will likely draft early in this upcoming draft. Former NFL quarterback Chris Sims with his take on how the Browns have been approaching the quarterback position this offseason. This from NBC's Pro Football Talk.
I don't really know exactly what the Browns are doing. Their defense, right, their secondary has some incredible talent. They got Myles Garrett. They got Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. But the quarterback situation is, of course, a disaster. It feels right now like they're going to go quarterback by committee almost. Like, let's get two or three just guys that are kind of good, and we'll just see how it goes. And that guy won't do good, and then we'll bench him, and we'll put in the other guy that's kind of just above average, and we'll see how he does and do that. I mean, is this what I want to say, like, jokingly and with a grin on my face, is like, is this the plan they told Myles Garrett that got him to sign in? They were like, hey, Kenny Pickett, Carson Wentz, Super Bowl, right? And he's like, damn, wear it. Let me have it. Let me sign it right now. So that's, again, where I go back to, I don't get it. I don't know. It's a reset year, obviously, and it is interesting what they're doing at the position right now.
Myles, we're going to add not one, but two Super Bowl winning quarterbacks.
Yeah, right.
That's what we're going to do.
Right. Yeah. They didn't do anything in the Super Bowl. They held the clipboard, but they did win the Super Bowl. They got a ring.
It's all fun and games till you got to live through it as a fan, huh? All right, Lance Zierlein, NFL draft analyst, on what he sees in quarterback Jackson Dart. Okay, we do not have that, so let's move on. All right, here's Lance Zierlein on Jackson Dart.
Jackson Dart's one of these guys who you're hearing his name buzzed in the first round. I don't know if I'm buying it or not, but one of the things you can say about Jackson Dart is the guy throws a great back shoulder fade. He is very good inside that Ole Miss offense, had a good command of the offense, is able to throw with good accuracy. Now he's got to put everything behind it to make some of these throws. He doesn't have a natural easy arm, but when he throws and when he has to kind of crank it up, he does throw some pretty good accuracy. So there are some things to like about Jackson Dart. I think he's one of the more consistent quarterbacks in this draft. So that's going to be the selling point for a lot of teams, is the consistency. He's not the biggest guy. He doesn't have the biggest arm, but he's a consistent guy and he's pretty accurate.
So Jackson Dart, a guy that some people have behind Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward as QB3. Some have him a little further down. All right, Louis Riddick talking about a quarterback that is rising up the draft boards late in this process. Louisville's Tyler Shuck.
Jackson Dart and Tyler Shuck, the two guys who are in question right now, like, I got to see them both play live. Got to talk to both of these guys. They are legit prospects, and they have a lot of backing behind them and a lot of sponsorship behind them in terms of their program, saying these guys are program builder type of players, especially Jackson Dart, who Lane Kiffin raved about how instrumental he was in the NIL era of helping them build the football team that they had in 2024, which we know didn't meet expectations, but were a damn good football team. Tyler Shuck is the one. Okay, this is the one to pay attention to.
Talk that noise.
Look, his injury history going back to Oregon and Texas Tech really are freak type of injuries. He dives in the end zone, breaks his collarbone twice. He gets hip drop tackled when he's at Texas Tech and breaks his ankle. Look, those are the kind of things that are not indicative of someone being injury prone. That's just called being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Right. We played a game. We know how that goes. This cat can throw the rock, though. And he's 6'4", 230 pounds, and ran 4.6 at the combine. That throw he made against Notre Dame, if that was Patrick Mahomes, we'd be sitting there running it on get up over and over.
Again, 7 years of college football, though, so he's 25 years old. So, that again, that's Tyler Shuck. The Browns are signing wide receiver and return specialist DeAndre Carter, one-year deal. Gets about $800,000 guaranteed, 10-year veteran. Spent last year in Chicago, again, a punt return kickoff guy as well. Browns also signing re-signing cornerback Tony Brown. Was mainly a special teams guy, pretty good on special teams last year. And they've also signed former Bears guard Tevin Jenkins. Mary Kay Cabot tweeting that out. Free agent linebacker Willie Gay Jr. is signing with the Dolphins, a one-year deal, that according to Jeremy Fowler. Some news about Russell Wilson. Reportedly, Russell Wilson sees the Giants and their quarterback situation as a more viable option in free agency than the Steelers. Again, we'll see. Wilson visited with the Giants last week and was reportedly ready to sign with them right away. Of course, Browns also involved a little bit with Wilson as he visited here in Cleveland before he went to visit the Giants. Cavaliers out on the West Coast, and not a great West Coast trip, as lost their first one, trying to avoid their third loss in a row, going in Sacramento against the Kings. Trey Lyles, the steal and the dunk. 107-104 Cavs lead, but here come more of the Kings. Out top, DeMar DeRozan, long three, ties it up at 107. Kings just kept coming. Devin Carter, the steal and the dunk. Some sloppy passing in this game. Evan Mobley trying to get it going as he gets the tip in there after the miss, tied it at 109. Lyles gets the offensive rebound. He'll get the putback. The Kings up 115-112. And they just kept coming. Cavs had the lead again early, and as you see here, late in the game, Kings kind of took over. DeMar DeRozan, the driving layup. Donovan Mitchell trying to fight and keep it close as he's going to take it inside, cut that lead back to one at 117-116. But Malik Monk with the ball, and he'll knock down the jumper. That made it 119-116. Kings hang on to hand the Cavs their third straight defeat. 123-119 the final. Kenny Atkinson on the loss.
I thought we were phenomenal in the first half in terms of, making them miss, making them, take bad shots. And now we did give up offensive rebounds in that first half. So it wasn't perfect, but we did a great job. Then the second half, they shoot 68%. I mean, that kind of tells it, the headline's got to be, we couldn't get stops. Couldn't get stops in the second half and couldn't get stops at the end, right? Like there's clutch possessions defensively. And, again, great job by them. Elite shot making. But what's a little bit bothersome is just kind of knowing personnel, knowing guys' strengths. When you're, they line you up, you got a one-on-one situation. What does a guy like to do? And, we did not execute defensively and paid for it. But again, 2 nights in a row, elite shot making, elite play by the other team. So I just want to give them credit first. But our defense was not good enough in the second half, not good enough in crunch time.
Absolutely correct. And again, you're splitting hairs at this point, but you want to see the defense late in games close it out. And the Cavs haven't done it. Again, they're in first place by a wide margin. They just need to kind of get ship righted as they close out the regular season. Some news from around the NBA. Bill Chisholm, managing partner of Symphony Technology, has agreed to buy the Celtics for $6.1 billion with a B, billion with a B dollars from the Grousbeck family. Grousbeck family bought that 10, 12 years ago at $350 million. Pretty nice return on investment. It's now the largest sale for a sports franchise in North America as the Celtics go for $6.1 billion. On to the Guardians. Gavin Williams continues to pitch well this spring. Had 5 more strikeouts against the Angels for the spring. He's gone 12 1/3, given up 4 earned runs. A lot of those were early, gave up a home run. But he has struck out 21 in 12 1/3, shown a lot of life on his fastball, back up in the 98-mile-an-hour range. Manager Stephen Vogt gave Williams all the credit for his success this spring so far.
This is the best Gavin I've seen, and I think for him, he worked extremely hard all winter, as we've talked about. He's got his body is in a great place, his deliveries, and he's got his fastball back. I think for Gavin, it's all about the fastball movement plots. When it's ready, it's a great pitch. When it's not, we saw that it can get hit. So and in that delivery, he's able to control his spin. His spin's moving the right way. So Gavin, you have to give all the credit to him. I mean, pitching staff did a great job, helping him, supporting him through the winter and this spring. They're putting in a lot of good work, but Gavin absolutely got after his winter, and he is dominating this spring, and we're really excited about where Gavin's headed.
Does he throw a 2-seamer and a 4-seamer?
It's just a
4-seamer.
Just a 4-seamer, but he's got the vert's
Right.
back. It was flat last year. This year, you can look at the numbers, but you can just see the difference. It's got life.
98 late life is always good on a fastball. Tanner Bybee was named the opening day starter by Stephen Vogt after his last start. Bybee this spring probably been even a little bit better than Williams, if that's possible. Vogt talked about the Guardians' opening day starter and letting Bybee know he earned that spot.
For Tanner, he's wanted this. I think, last year he made the comment to me, when we got to spring training, I met him. He said, I'm a number one. And I'm like, yeah, I know you will be. He's like, no, I want to start opening day. And I'm like, well, Shane Bieber may have something to say about that, but I love where you're at and I don't ever lose that. And so it was just that. It was like, hey, you said you wanted this and now you earned it. And for Tanner, he's earned every bit of this, and we're just really excited for him and his family. And it's a big deal. And so I'm really excited for Tanner.
Again, Tanner Bybee will get the start for the Guardians week from today in Kansas City against Cole Reagans and the Royals. We're going to take a quick time out. Other side of the break, Quincy Carrier joins us. Talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program is dedicated to recognizing exceptional students, teachers, and schools throughout Ohio. Scan the QR code on screen to nominate students and teachers as Academic All-Stars and Teachers of the Month. They must be currently enrolled or teach in grades K through 12. Is your K through 12 school developing students' literacy skills to achieve success in reading? If so, you can nominate your school for the School of the Year. Students can win $100, teachers can win $500, and schools can win $2,500. Scan the QR code, fill out the forms, and nominate deserving students, teachers, and schools today. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program takes pride in honoring exceptional students, teachers, and schools across Ohio. Submit your nomination today. It's fun, fast, and free. We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Veteran quarterbacks, a big topic around these parts. We know the Browns are likely to get one more of them. Mike Florio, Chris Sims on Carson Wentz, who has been linked to the Browns last couple days.
He's 47-46-1 as a starter. I actually thought his record was better than that, but he's on the right side of 500. He's got, for his career, he's got 153 touchdown passes, which is a hell of a lot more than I would have thought, and 67 interceptions. That's a pretty good ratio. Yeah. And as you pointed out, it was 27-7 with Indianapolis and 11-9 the next year with Washington. He ultimately only started 7 games, appeared in 8. There were injuries and whatnot. But, he is a guy who, there aren't enough good quarterbacks to go around. There aren't enough bad quarterbacks to go around. He is a guy who has a place in the NFL. And with the Browns dealing with the albatross contract that they gave to Deshaun Watson, not having a lot of money available and cap space available at quarterback, Wentz makes sense unless they can get Russell Wilson on the cheap. And frankly, Chris, I know we got a break, but between Wentz and Wilson right now,
I know.
I'd probably want. It would be a close one for me. Which guy I want?
It's a close one. I would agree. And hopefully Carson Wentz. And I think he's probably changed, and that's the great thing about Kansas City, being there, from not only getting coached by that, but seeing that group there and that culture there. I was at practice a few times when he was there. He seemed to fit in, so maybe he's a different guy from the years of the Colts and the Eagles and all that in the locker room.
Let's welcome in Quincy Carrier, Untitled, Unfiltered Browns coverage. So, Quincy, you're reaching into that 3 for $1 quarterback bin in the store. Which one are you picking out?
I don't think it's comparable between Russ and Carson Wentz. I don't know how we're equivocating Carson Wentz to Russell Wilson at this point. Because, Russ, like, all the stuff people say about Russ, and I get it. People pile on, and I've made the jokes about Russ in the past, and he's corny and all of this stuff, but he's been a 26-12 guy the last 2 years on above 500, close to playoff qualifying teams, and a playoff qualifying team in Pittsburgh the last 2 seasons. The last time we saw Carson Wentz, he was a disaster for the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, there is a clear difference. I think Carson Wentz is not capable of providing starting level quarterback play in the NFL. I do think Russ is capable of being a starter. Is he capable of being Russell Wilson of old, of the Legion of Boom days? No, but he's certainly going to provide a better quality and consistency at quarterback than like a Joe Flacco or Carson Wentz or Jacoby Brissett at this point.
So, what do you think the Browns? What do you do if you're Andrew Berry? And again, Wilson came out today and said he prefers to go to the Giants over the Steelers. Didn't really mention the Browns in there. Kirk Cousins now would cost you some sort of draft capital and probably significantly more than veteran minimum, so I don't know that that's an option. Where do you look?
Well, I wouldn't assume that Kirk's going to cost you a ton of money, right? Atlanta's pretty, like, as much as Atlanta's acting like they want to roll into the season, they don't want to roll into the season with him as the backup quarterback. That's not really a plan that they have in mind. So the Browns are going to do what I think every other team in the market's going to do, which is wait this thing out until after the draft, see what happens with him, right? If Shador falls and you take him by trading up from 33, then this becomes a non-problem for you. If you really like Will Howard, you get him at a spot that you like, then this becomes less of a problem for you. So I think that's the next step, right? Kirk didn't become available. I think that was the only quarterback they were ever going to sign at this period of free agency if he became available. Since that's not the case, I think they're going to wait this thing out until, possibly post June 1st to see what actually the Falcons are willing to do at that quarterback position with him. Because, here's the thing with the whole Kirk Cousins is going to be the backup thing. Don't that remind you of when people were trying to convince you that Deshaun Watson was going to have Baker Mayfield as his backup in 2022? People were like, oh, no, the Browns are going to do it. Don't you worry. The Browns are going to have Baker Mayfield. They're just not going to trade him. And then we traded him for like a 5th and a 6th round pick, right? Something's gonna shake. It's obvious they don't want him back, and it's obvious that Kirk don't want to go back. So they'll do something either as a designated post June 1st. I think they still have a slot available, or just straight up after June 1st. Because what if Kirk don't show up the OTAs or something like that? I think they're just gonna have to sit and wait. It's not a comfortable feeling, but I mean, even if we sign Kirk in March, man, it wouldn't be comfortable, right? It just is what it is. This is just where you are if you're the Cleveland Browns, and the best you can hope for is to get somebody who can provide a level of quarterback play that will be significantly better than where you were last year. And you were at a very dark place last year, quarterback play, so it shouldn't be hard to find an upgrade.
All right. I know you've addressed this on your show. Are we overthinking fixing the Browns' offense?
I think so. We look at the Browns, they scored 258 points, which was the lowest in the NFL. If you factor in just the DTR and Deshaun Watson starts, and then you per 17 game those numbers, I think it was 220 that you would have scored if you started those 17 games. So it gets even worse than 258, which was the lowest number in the NFL. But if you do that same thing for Jameis Winston and Bailey Zapp, that number goes up to being above 300. My point here is that the Browns didn't score a ton of points because they had the 2 worst quarterbacks in the NFL play the bulk of their games last year. If they have an upgrade from that situation, even if that upgrade is simply Bailey Zapp and Jameis Winston, they are a significantly better offense. If they can get somebody like Kirk Cousins, I think the difference in total points scored between what Kirk Cousins did on the per 17 game basis with the Atlanta Falcons and what the Browns did was about 83 points, Dave. And 83 points would be enough to flip 7 of the Browns' losses into wins. And if you can just do the simple math, there's 7 plus 3, that's 10 wins. So yeah, even a marginal upgrade at quarterback, going from 32 to 24th in points scored, nobody gets excited about that, right? You're not going to be pounding the table, doing Andrew Berry laser eyes, calling it sexy. But it is a meaningful upgrade in the offense. And if you're able to jump from 32 to 24 with a proven commodity like a Kirk Cousins or a Russell Wilson, Russell scored on a per 17 basis about 390 points with the Pittsburgh Steelers last year, which is good enough to be 12th in the league. That is a difference that's going to show itself in the win and loss column for your football team. And it could be the difference from having the second pick and having a 10-win season, playing meaningful football and allowing that meaningful football to help you develop your young players and your culture.
So Brown's salary cap health, where do they stand with it, do you think? You think they're all right with it? We saw came out that they restructured Conklin's and got $12 million with that restructure, I think is what it was. So they got about 21 million, something like that.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what this Tevin Jenkins deal looks like, too, that just broke out, because he's definitely a starting caliber guard in the NFL. Like, there's no doubt about that in my mind. The question with him is staying healthy. He was originally drafted to be a tackle, only got to play 150 snaps at the tackle position in the NFL. There might be a chance the Browns see him as a tackle, and that's why he opted to go here. But the money will really tell the story on that one, because they might get rid of Wyatt Teller if that's the case there, or maybe maybe they do something wacky like put him at center. I don't know what the move is with that, but I do like the player that they signed. But yeah, money wise, the Browns are fine place. They can free up a lot of cap space if they want to, right? Now, they can't be irresponsible. They can't just sign somebody to play quarterback for $50 million a year. That's not going to be very good for them in the long-term future. But if the Browns want to add to what they have here, if they want to sign a veteran quarterback to a $10 to $20 million deal, they can do that, right? They're not locked in by the salary cap or constrained from the salary cap as much as some people put it out there to be.
All right, before we go to break, the Myles Garrett situation, he ended up signing, and for a week or so, he was the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. Now that's Jamar Chase. Only until the next signing, I guess. But did they win the Myles Garrett situation?
I think so. You get 6 years on him. You don't have to start that $40 million until the next 2 years. So think about that, Dave, right? Already 2 days passed after he signs the extension and he's no longer the highest paid non-quarterback. Think about what it's going to be like in 2 years when the salary cap has 2 years of growth under its belt, and you also have 2 years of players getting extensions, right? That might break that market. That might even eclipse what Myles got here, right? Micah Parsons still got to get a deal done, right? He's going to be another guy who's probably going to reset the non-quarterback market. So in a couple of years, we could be looking at the top paid non-quarterbacks and see that Myles Garrett's like 9th or 10th on that list. And it's going to feel like a steal, and that's when the contract actually hits. So, I think this is a complete win for the Cleveland Browns. Did they have to pay a ton of money for Myles Garrett? Yeah, but they didn't have to put a ton of cash at the beginning of this contract. They didn't have to hamper their short-term cap situation to make them happy in the short term. They were able to offer him, I think, the deal that they would have always offered Myles Garrett and slapped on a no-trade clause, which, again, the no-trade clause could matter as far as, like, if Myles Garrett gets to a point at the end of that contract where it's kind of mutual for the Browns to move off of him, because the Browns aren't in a place to be competitive, he can control his destiny a little bit, so he gets a little bit of peace of mind there. But yeah, I think the Browns are in a solid spot here with the Myles contract. I think that contract is pretty good. It's not as good as his first contract he signed here, but it's still pretty damn good, because I think in a few years we'll look at having a guy, a perennial defensive player of the year candidate in Myles Garrett on a $40 million deal. That could be a bargain by the time it actually hits. Well, not a bargain. $40 million a year is never going to be a bargain, but it could be like, oh wow, that's all we're paying for Myles Garrett, right? Because you're going to see somebody get 50.
Yeah, without question. And the salary cap's going to keep going up, so the salaries are going to keep going up. Quincy, Carey, and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, we'll head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason, Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
We're out here busting common lottery myths by talking to real players just like you. And you, sir, what's your name? Where are you from?
Tom Burrell from Lexington, Ohio.
I'm playing Powerball. I use auto pick when I pick my numbers. Do I have better, worse, or the same odds?
Same odds. I'd say better. I still think worse. Same odds.
He's got it. It's the same. Auto pick, numbers you pick, Same odds, either way. He has it. He has it, folks. He already knows. You can learn more by going to OhioLottery.com/knowtheodds.
We continue talking Browns with Quincy Carey from Untitled, Unfiltered Browns coverage. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
How you guys doing? It's your boy Cardiac back with a question for you. With the draft fastly approaching, what do you think about this move? I believe we have about, 13 picks? Why don't we go ahead and select Shedeur at 2, package the 33rd pick and some other picks, and try to move back up into the first round and select Travis Hunter? And we can go ahead and do the Jamar Chase and Burrow type method. I know people don't look at Shedeur in that ilk of those other two, but they play together. They have a relationship, a chemistry that they'll be able to come in right away and have. And like I said, you get somebody who Shedeur knows and can come along. I think that'll help. So what do you guys think? Appreciate it. Have a nice day.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Quincy, I was saving this one for you because I know you addressed this. So what do you think? Shedeur and you'd probably have to do it the other way. You'd probably have to take Hunter and then try to get back in and hope Shedeur slides. But what do you think of that?
If you do it the way, and no disrespect to the caller, I think the idealist sound, right? And the reasoning for the idealist sound, I think how we got there was a little bit off, because it's going to be realistically, if you want to trade back in to get Travis Hunter, you're probably going to have to give up first-round picks next year, where, there's more of a question about if Shedeur Sanders is going to actually go super early in this first round. Ultimately, nobody knows where Shedeur is going to fall. Even Shedeur Sanders doesn't know where he's going to be selected yet. But, yeah, I think the idea of getting, if you get Travis Hunter, number 2 overall, and then Shedeur does fall within the range, if he falls past Pittsburgh, right, at 20, because I think going up before that, you would probably have to give up a future first to go back into the draft. I'm not willing to do that for Shedeur. But once you get past 20 and we start entering that 25, 26 range, it's only an extra fourth historically is what it's cost to move up from 33 at that point. Then I think it's worthwhile to get Shedeur Sanders there. My beef with Shedeur is just he's not a number 2 overall pick caliber quarterback. I think Shedeur could sit comfortably in that same realm where Andy Dalton and Kirk Cousins sat comfortably their whole career, right? Low tier Pro Bowl guys who can be a long-term starter for a team, but also starters that you're always going to have conversations about overcoming ultimately in the bigger moments. If you spend that on a late first and that's what gets you by for a while you try to develop and build, and maybe you draft some experimental quarterbacks who you try to develop behind them, that can be a road to get the guy that you really need there. But as long as if you're doing it that way, I think Shedeur pairing him up with Travis Hunter, I don't think that's a terrible idea.
Again, I know you've addressed this on your show. Best case scenario for the Browns with the second pick. What do you think it is?
It's Abdul Carter. I think that's my favorite scenarios, that they just take Abdul Carter there at 2. I know there's all these concerns popping up. I'm old enough, and I'm sure you're old enough, Dave, to remember when Myles was getting ready to go number 1 overall. There were all these concerns that people had about him, right? Is he the next Jadeveon Clowney? I'm hearing people bring up Abdul Carter and Courtney Brown because they both played at Penn State, and not the same foot injury, but they hurt foot. Penn State edge rusher. Oh my God, Courtney Brown, right? Myles Garrett had a foot thing coming out of Texas A&M, right? It didn't end up being a big deal. It's more similar to what Abdul Carter has. From what they've reported, it's an 8-week hold time on the surgery if he chooses to get it. Seems like a complete nothing burger there with the foot. Yeah, I remember the hesitancy whenever a lot of people are saying you should do something and you want to go quarterback or you want to go offense. There's always going to be hesitancy there. But Abdul Carter's a really good prospect. I don't mind going Travis Hunter there. But if you're asking me what my favorite is, if I'm the GM of the Browns, what I would do, I would draft Abdul Carter, number 2 overall, if he's there. And I'd be happy with it.
You know what? The more accurate comp to a Penn State guy is Micah Parsons, because they both had the same kind of movement from off ball to edge, and we see that worked out pretty well for the Cowboys.
It's funny too, Dave, because people will bring up Courtney Brown, and I'm like, actually, the guy he resembles a lot more in that same draft class that went number 2 overall is LeVar Arrington.
Yeah. Also
three-time
Penn
Pro
State.
Bowler.
Yep. I got you.
Also wore number 11.
All right.
Also was 6'3". Also was 250.
Do you think the Browns have to draft a quarterback in this draft?
If you get to and this is a real question I want to ask folks. Do you want the Browns to just draft the quarterback just to say that we did it, right? Because if we get to round 3 and we look at the quarterback landscape and it's like Max Brosmer or something like that, like not really a solution you feel great about. Understand if you like Will Howard, you want to take Will Howard in third, got no problem with that. Jalen Milroe in the second or third, I got no problem with that, right? Shador Sanders late first, got no problem with that. But if you run out of options that you feel good about, should you draft the quarterback just to say you did it? I think you're going to be criticized heavily for not taking a quarterback in this draft. But, I think there's a chance, especially if the Browns feel like they can get the veteran quarterback that they want, that they could say, hey, we're not going to even pretend like we're going to try to develop Dylan Gabriel, right? Like that's not something that we want to do. So it really depends on how they feel about these quarterbacks. But I would say you got to have a cutoff of prospects that you feel like are worthwhile to develop on your roster for a couple of years. And if those guys are all gone by the time you're willing to take a quarterback, then you might as well just commit to what you've done and not take a quarterback.
Yeah, and I know the other thing is reaching for a quarterback in the top 5. Man, that just doesn't usually end well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, reaching out the top 10 to get a quarterback. Now it's hard to determine it, but consensus top 10 boards do exist. Reaching for a quarterback, it's just never been a great idea. The only time it can work is if you're reaching for a quarterback, but you don't see it as an organization as a reach. You actually just love that player that much. If that's where you're on, if that's what you're on, then cool. I've said this for a while. I'm more okay with the Browns deciding that they fell in love head over heels with one of these quarterbacks and decided they need to trade up the one to get them. Than just sitting back and saying, well, quarterback's here too, let's take them, right? I want the buy-in on the player, and if the buy-in isn't there on the player and you're just buying in on the position itself, then I think you're setting yourself up for failure more than likely.
Quincy Carrier and I are going to take one more time out. Other side of the break, back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Plus, Quincy's done a deep dive on Andrew Berry and reviewed him. We'll talk to him about that. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with Quincy Carrier from Untitled, Unfiltered Browns coverage. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey, Dave. Love the show, brother. Just have a quick question. Been reading and hearing a lot of the Browns' interest in Carson Wentz. And so my question to you is, we're going to draft a quarterback. It's a given. But chances are week 1, unless he just dominates the preseason and mini camps, he's probably not going to start. So if your starting comes between the old guy who can't move or the young guy who can't move, who are you picking? I kind of would rather just throw Kenny Pickett in there. He's still kind of young, and let's just see what the kid's got. We know what Carson Wentz is. He's an injury-prone guy. So if you're going to bring him, I'm assuming he's going to be like the old teacher of the group, and I would pick Pickett over him just because I think Pickett could stay healthier. Just want to hear your thoughts. Go Browns.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Quincy, I would assume this would be a true quarterback competition between Kenny Pickett and assuming it's not Russell Wilson. If it's Russell Wilson, he's probably coming in to be your quarterback. If you take a quarterback at 2, I'm guessing the young kid's going to probably play sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I would say you probably want to give him about 6 weeks, right, to get ready for the season. Give him an extra training camp during the season before you throw him in there. We've learned the hard way just throwing quarterbacks in there just does not work. Yeah, I mean, it's a distinction without a difference whether you go with Carson Wentz or Kenny Pickett in my mind. I don't think you're really going to change the win-loss record based on that. I just hope that that's not the situation we go into the season. If that's really all I can really contend with there.
I hear you. None of the options are great. It's kind of like asking you, electric chair, lethal injection, firing squad. Which you like?
It's like choosing between two very healthy pizza options. It's just like I just rather would not eat. I think I'm just not hungry. I think that is the choice that I'm going to make here.
All right. I'm curious. Objective, scientific review of Andrew Berry. What did you come to? You did a deep dive on it. What conclusions did you draw?
Yeah, so I dug through about 30, 40 off seasons worth of approximate value numbers for different teams from the 2020 to 2023 off season. That means evaluating drafts, free agent classes, who you retained, who you lost. And I came out with a net approximate value number, thanks to Pro Football Reference. And what I found was interesting is that if you just look at the whole, right, the whole net value number, Andrew Berry's actually like pretty good when it comes to that. He's done a really good job retaining his players. He's done a good job of making sure there's space to keep a lot of his players. It's a downfall of a lot of GMs. They don't manage their cap well, which means they have to lose guys, key guys at moments that aren't really optimal for the team. Andrew's been able to keep the roster together pretty well. The additions he has made has worked. The one issue with Andrew Berry is that the 2021 and 2022 drafts do not look like they're going to age well anytime soon. They look like two legitimately bad drafts. Now, the 2023 draft looks like it's on its way to being a solid performer for the Browns. And the 2024 draft will probably be another solid performer for the Browns. And the 2020 draft was going to be a solid performer for the Browns. So it's not like he's a terrible drafter, but he has not been as consistent as he's been with free agents and trades and retaining guys as he has been. He hasn't been as good as that as he has been with the draft. The draft hasn't been a strong point for him. So, when you look at it objectively, you look at these numbers, it tells you that Andrew Berry has brought more talent into this team than he came in with. And he's done a good job retaining it. Some years are better than the other, but I mean, this accounts for the amount of approximate value that you lost with the Deshaun Watson trade, which was minus 42 points, which is a huge number. To put in context how many points the Browns would have had to get from Deshaun Watson to equal out what they traded for him, Dave, you're talking about 50 points of approximate value because he got you 8 in Cleveland. He lost 42. 50 points in approximate value is what like Pat Mahomes has accumulated over that same 4-year time span. So, you lost out heavily on that, but they're still finding ways to come out positive on these off seasons when it comes to players that they bring in. So when you look at the whole, Andrew Berry's done a good job. He's done as good as a job as a lot of the other executives, and it makes sense to me now after doing this study that there's still a lot of respect for how he operates amongst other NFL front offices, because if you look at the whole of what he's been able to do, it is, I want to say, the most impressive out there, right? Like Brad Holmes is more impressive. I think the GM out there in Tampa Bay, the long-term guy there, more impressive, but it's up there. It's I think it was in the top 3 of the 9 that I ranked.
Yeah, the one thing is he hasn't had that sexy, big splash draft pick that's hit. You go out and you draft a running back or a quarterback or a wide receiver who touches the ball. Those are the guys that, wow, this guy can really draft. And it's like, well, no, not always.
Well, and look, Dave, if he does draft Abdul Carter and Abdul Carter turns into what people think he could be, you know what I don't want to hear from people in 5 years? Well, anybody would have drafted Abdul Carter because I lived through this, y'all.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, I know you also addressed, before I let you go, free agents that the Browns should try and grab. We're towards the back half of free agency. There's still some people out there. Who are some guys that you think make sense?
Hey, well, one of the guys on the list they signed. Tevin Jenkins.
There you go.
Did not expect that to be the case. But yeah, they got out Tevin Jenkins. I think he's a really good guard. The issue with him is staying healthy. He's good to miss a couple of games a year, right? It's kind of like a Jack Conklin situation where you know he's going to miss 4 or 5 games a year, right? The question with him is, where do you play him? Do you play him at tackle because you're pretty filled at guard? Wyatt Teller, unless you trade or cut him, he's probably going to be there. I don't see him sliding into center. So, like, where do you envision Tevin? My guess is that he might play tackle, but that's just a guess based off of where the Browns are aligned currently. They could make a move on Wyatt sooner than later. So I like that move. I think Stephon Diggs is an interesting one to think about because he needs a prove-it type year, right? Like, he needs to go somewhere where he can get a little prove-it deal, short-term fix for the team. And the Browns are in a situation where they kind of need to rent a number 1 wide receiver for a year, right? And it might make sense to go to Stephon Diggs, do a 1-year prove-it, 4.5, plus some incentives, and just call it a day, upgrade the room for a year. Maybe if you get a young quarterback, you can have him throw to Diggs. Or, if you get a veteran quarterback, somebody like Kirk Cousins, you know that he can handle the responsibility of throwing to Diggs. I believe Kirk's played with Diggs before, right? Yeah,
Yep.
Minnesota. It seems like so long ago, Dave. But wouldn't that be hilarious if there's a reunion between Diggs and Kirk Cousins in Cleveland?
Yeah, without question. Quincy Carrier, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Quincy.
Thank you. Y'all have a great day.
Quincy Carrier, make sure you check him out. Great Browns coverage, always Untitled, Unfiltered. Go to YouTube, search him. You will find him. Really good stuff. We're in this episode. Take a quick time out. We continue talking Browns. Jacob Roach, the Orange and Brown Report, Barking Browns podcast. Straight ahead. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We're out here busting common lottery myths by talking to real players just like you. And you, sir, what's your name? Where are you from?
Tom Burrell from Lexington, Ohio.
I'm playing Powerball. I use AutoPick when I pick my numbers. Do I have better, worse, or the same odds?
Same odds. I'd say better. I still think worse. Same odds.
He's got it. It's the same. AutoPick, numbers you pick, same odds. Either way, he has it. He has it, folks. He already knows. You can learn more by going to ohiolottery.com/knowtheodds.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams. I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Jacob Roach from the Orange and Brown Report has a recent mock draft out. So at 2 overall, Jacob has the Browns taking Cam Ward from Miami. Luther Burden, wide receiver from Miami at 33. Another skill position guy, Elijah Arroyo, 67. Second one in the 3rd round, he goes left tackle, Charles Grant from William & Mary. Shamar Turner at 104, and then running back, LaQuint Allen from Syracuse at 179. Let's welcome in Jacob Roach from the Orange and Brown Report, as well as the Barking Browns podcast. So, Jacob, if Cam Ward's there, I would imagine the Browns run the card up as quickly as possible.
If I was in that draft room, yeah, absolutely. If I had anything to do with that, I'd run my fast. That's the first time I'd ever run a 40. But yeah, no, the thing that comes along there with Cam Ward is he's got the most arm talent of anybody in this class at the quarterback position. So for me, I want to bet on the guy that has the most high-end traits. I know there's going to be issues and concerns with the decision making and people want to talk about his bad footwork and stuff. But I want to look, when I look at Cam Ward, go watch him at Washington State versus him at Miami. There was a lot of cleaning up of that footwork. There was a lot of him playing more in structure. Yes, he goes big play hunting every single snap. But Shadur Sanders does that more than people want to talk about as well. But he's just got elite NFL arm talent. And if I'm wanting to go to that next level, I'm looking for a guy like that.
You come back, take a wide receiver at 33. What do you like about Burden from Missouri?
Luther Burden spent a lot of this year kind of wide receiver 2 or 3 for me. He's kind of fallen in some recent weeks. I think some of that has to do with the fact that a lot of people he projects as a slot-only wide receiver in the NFL, kind of due to some of his size restrictions. Not sure if he can hold up on the outside. I'm not really I don't like to punish people for being slot-only wide receivers anymore. I think we have too many offenses having slot wide receivers on the field all the time, just as often as they have. You're seeing more and more 3 wide receiver sets, but Luther Burden is just so explosive and so creative, and the short area quickness when he's in the phone booth against you, and especially if you're give him any kind of wiggle room because you have to respect that speed, he's going to win. He's going to embarrass you off the line of scrimmage, and what he does with the ball in his hands in the open field, you look back at David Njoku with Joe Flacco when he was he was doing these amazing things after the catch. Luther Burden does that and then some, because I think he's even faster than David Njoku. He's just so creative with the ball in his hands, and whoever the quarterback is, and in this scenario, it's Cam Ward, a rookie quarterback especially, or a limited veteran quarterback, needs his wide receivers and his weapons to be able to help him and take some burden off of him. There's a pun right there. And Luther Burden could do just that.
All right, I saw how you did that. I don't think it was intentional. We'll assume it wasn't intentional. All right, you come back and you have Elijah Arroyo, tight end from Miami, and that's a mismatch kind of tight end guy. That's wide receiver / tight end type.
Yeah, and of course played with Cam Ward this year, so you immediately you make his job, you make him feel even more comfortable in your offense because you got one of his top targets. He's a mismatch. Even without David Njoku. And then you add in that he's going to be the tight end too, potentially, in this situation. He's had some injury issues, and he's kind of a one-year, one-hit wonder, really the only this year being super productive, which is why you're going to see him late into round 3, maybe even fall into early day 3. But his ability to attack vertically, especially down the seam, it's pretty awesome. It's pretty special. Very explosive in short areas. The leaping ability, the ability to high point the ball and make those contested catches, it's there. In this situation, I was trying to surround Cam Ward with as much firepower as possible, and him and Njoku and Burden and Judy. That would be a pretty dynamic set of playmakers.
All right, before we move on, I got to ask you, what do you like about Allen, the running back from Syracuse?
His vision might be the best thing that I like about him. I was doing a podcast recently where we were talking about things that we look for when we scout running backs. And my number one thing, I always come to the vision, because if you can't see the rushing lane, if you can't see the cutback lane, if you can't see how things are playing and the defense is trying to counter what your offense is trying to do, if you can't see those things, you can't react to those things, you're not going to be a top tier running back. You've got to be able to understand what's going on in front of you and what you need to do. And I think LaQuinn Allen really does a good job of understanding and watching and seeing what's going on. And then even more so, his short yardage ability in the goal-to-go situations and short yardage, that Kareem Hunt role from a couple of years ago, I think really stand out for me.
So I know you've gotten this from your mailbag. What do you think it costs the Browns to move up from 2 to 1 in the event they want to make sure, say they got to have Cam Ward? What do you think it costs?
The one wild card in this situation, trying to figure out this cost, is the question about is the Giants also trying? Are the Giants also trying to go up there and running the price up? For me, I think you're going to have to give up a day 2 asset. I don't know if it's going to be pick 33. If the Giants are there and they're offering pick, I think they have pick 34. And if they're offering that, it may take pick 33, but you're giving up either a second and a third, a second or a third. You might be able to get away with just giving up 67, and you're also going to have to give up probably one of those 6th round picks. So you're going to have to give up a top 75 pick at least, and then maybe a back end on the back end 6 somewhere in there. And if the Giants are raising the price, 33 may be involved, and I think that would be too rich for Cleveland.
All right, so let's assume that the Titans take Cam Ward. What are you doing at number 2?
Abdul Carter. Yeah, I think for me it's Abdul Carter. It's been Abdul Carter for a while. And then, of course, I got the Cam Ward thing back in my head because, the way the Titans were talking, we're like, oh, maybe we're going to be able to get Cam Ward. And now it seems to be shifting back that he's going to go number 1. I like Shedeur Sanders. I don't like Shedeur Sanders at number 2. I was asked a question by somebody recently. Would I rather, take Shedeur Sanders and Ohio State guard Donovan Jackson, or would I rather Abdul Carter and Jackson Dart? And I've been kind of low on Jackson Dart. I'm kind of coming around on Jackson Dart a little bit, honestly. I like him more than I did a couple weeks ago. But I just think Abdul Carter in that position is a blue chip player, and I don't think Shedeur Sanders is. And when you're picking 2 overall, I need a blue chip player. I need a top 10 talent. I have Shedeur Sanders as 23 on my big board, and that's just kind of a little high for me for a guy whose physical traits are kind of limited. He's got a super high floor, but I think he's got kind of a low ceiling. So I'm going with Abdul Carter because that is a freaky athlete that we do not see often, and putting that opposite Myles Garrett, I don't know. I like our odds.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm having fun looking at other quarterbacks, trying to block those guys. All right, before we go to break, do you think the Browns make any draft day trades, either players or picks, to try to move up, move back?
Yeah, so the thing that's been gaining kind of some traction, I've heard it because some buzz around NFL draft circles and whatnot, and we've heard some of these things at the OBR. If one of these quarterbacks falls that they like, Jackson Dart may be that guy. There's some rumors that maybe Shedeur falls a little bit. I think eventually somewhere in the top 10 he'll go, so I don't think he'll fall too far. But if they really like Jalen Milroe, they really like Jackson Dart, and they get into the 20s, and you're sitting there, old friend Quincy, Adolfo-Mensa over there at Minnesota, they only have 4 picks in the entire draft. They're at 24. That could be a range where they say, you know what? I'm not risking losing out on Jalen Milroe. I'm not risking missing out on Jackson Dart if those are guys that they really like. And we know for a fact that they like those guys. We don't know to the extent of how much they like the guys if they want to move up. But I really feel like if there is a draft day trade that is of significance, because there's a good chance they slide back here and add some future assets because Andrew Berry loves to do that. But if there's like a really big significant move, I think it's going to be move up for a quarterback there in probably the mid-20s.
Jacob Roach and I are going to step aside, take one more time out. Other side of the break, we'll talk a little bit more about the draft. Sports4CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
We're out here busting common lottery myths by talking to real players just like you. And you, sir, what's your name? Where are you from?
Tom Burrell from Lexington, Ohio.
I'm playing Powerball. I use auto pick when I pick my numbers. Do I have better, worse, or the same odds?
Same odds. I'd say better. I still think worse. Same odds.
He's got it. It's the same. Auto pick, numbers you pick, same odds either way. He has it, folks. He already knows. You can learn more by going to ohiolottery.com/knowtheodds.
We continue talking Browns and draft with Jacob Roach from the Orange and Brown Report and the Barking Browns podcast. Jacob, Will Howard, is he like a fourth round guy? Do you think he's on the Browns' radar?
I originally going into this process, that's where I had him. Was kind of the fourth, fifth round, somewhere like 100 to 120, maybe somewhere in that range. But, he has that great run there in the college football playoff. And then the deeper we get into draft season every year, we remember, teams get desperate for quarterbacks. He's my quarterback 4 on my big board. I don't think he makes it out of the third round, and I would not be shocked if Will Howard was a second-round pick. Rather, he's a second or third-round talent. I think that's debatable, but you look at a guy who, very similar to Shadur, he's not nearly as accurate, but he has a high ceiling, kind of a low floor, but he has shown you when everything is put well around him, he's given good elite wide receivers and a good run game, that he can be smart with the football. He delivers it on time. The way he operates inside structure is exactly what Kevin Stefanski wants. He's an extension of his play caller. He's an extension of Chip Kelly this year, and that led to a national championship. I think he's absolutely on the Browns' radar. I don't think they would want to take him before 67, so that first pick in the third round. But there's been some buzz that the Steelers like him in round 1. So you never know. But he's definitely a second, a day 2 pick at worst.
So another guy the quarterback position, Tyler Shuck from Louisville, is a guy that you've heard get a lot of buzz. He's played 7 years of college football. 7 years of college. The question is he drawing a pension yet from college football? But is he a viable option for the Browns, do you think?
I think the Browns, they have brought him in for a top 30 visit. We do know that. That has been confirmed, that Tyler Shuck is one of their top 30 visits. I think if he's there on day 3 and they didn't already take one before then, or if they decide to double down, I mean, that's a very real possibility that they double down and take 2 quarterbacks. I think it's possible. He's got the arm talent. Like when you turn on his Louisville tape, especially this year, you see a guy that can make all the NFL throws. He's a good athlete, good strong arm. He's always been like a 62% completion percentage guy. He's only played, in those 7 years, he's only played double-digit games once. That was this year with Louisville. In every other year, he played 7 or fewer games. He had 3 season-ending injuries. The one good thing about those injuries are they were broken bones. So he had broken his clavicle twice, and then he broke his leg when his leg kind of got rolled up underneath him, kind of in a freak accident kind of situation. So there's not necessarily long-lasting ones, but it's like he turns 26 in September. Going into his second contract, he's going to be in his 30s already. So it's like you got to really love the arm talent. I think he's a viable option if they wait into the third round. He does have the arm talent, but like the accuracy. And for a guy in college football who played 7 years, I kind of would expect him to have played more than 42 games.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's just kind of where I'm at.
I mean, he was Justin Herbert's backup at Oregon, and Herbert's on his second contract with the Chargers. I know you got this one in your mailbag. What's the sweet spot for Browns at tight end? They obviously need some if you're going to run quote unquote Kevin Stefanski's offense.
I think it's rounds 3 to 5. I think about right then and there. I think that's right where, especially in the third round, I think you can really see a run kind of go there because you got the top guys. Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland will probably both go in the first round. There's a lot of love for Mason Taylor from LSU. He'll probably go early into day 2 and that sort of thing. And then you start getting back into kind of some of these guys like Elijah Arroyo and some guys that have, some knocks on them, some concerns. They're the second tier, the third tier, if you will. And I think that's kind of the sweet spot. And you can get some really role-specific guys. And you can get some guys that have a bunch of upside. Jalen Conyers, the Texas Tech tight end, he's 260 pounds and ran like a 4.6, and he blocks his butt off. Like, that's a dude you're going to get in the 4th or 5th round. And it's like, hey, if you can get this dude to put, like, he's a freaky athlete at 260 pounds, and he'll block you into the dirt, and you get some guys like that, Jackson Hawes from Georgia Tech. You're just going to get some guys that, like, were never able to put it all together, but have some sort of characteristics in that range. And I think that's exactly what the Browns need.
All right, before I let you go, is there one or two wide receivers outside of the top 5 that you like for the Browns?
I just love Jalen Royals from Utah State. Nice, good size, like 6'1", 6'2", 205 pounds, I think, 210 pounds. But he's just so explosive. His vertical speed's awesome, but he's another one of those guys like Luther Burden where it's like what he does is what he does with the ball in his hands in the open field. He's just so creative in the ways that he makes people miss. He's a good quality route runner, good body control, change of direction, speeds, skills are all there. And I just love a player that I know I can throw him a screen pass, a slant pass, and a go route, and he can house all of those. And I think that's Jalen Royals.
Jacob Roach, Orange and Brown Report and the Barking Browns podcast, as always. Great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Jacob.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Jacob Roach, make sure you check him out. Always really good stuff. Orange and Brown Report, Barking Browns podcast. Well-versed in the draft prospects, and what the Browns are looking for. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow at 4 on Sports for CLE.